Good morning, everyone. It is October 12th. Going to talk about the Israel-Hamas war. So far in Israel, 1,200 fatalities have been recorded with 3,000 injuries. Meanwhile, the American death toll in the region is now 25, with 17 still missing. Israel is preparing for a significant military move in the region, amassing about 530,000 service members for a potential invasion of Gaza, as well as reservists to protect their borders. The Israeli Air Force has launched over 3,600 airstrikes across Gaza, using more than 6,000 munitions. In retaliation, Hamas has fired over 5,000 rockets from Gaza. Per the Gaza Health Ministry, 1,354 Palestinians have been killed in the war thus far, with 6,049 wounded. Hamas incursions into Israel have lessened since October 9th, and they are increasingly resorting to rocket barrages and attack drones. These rockets have reached as far north as Haifa and have frequently targeted Tel Aviv. Breaking previous patterns, Hamas warned Israelis in Ashkelon to evacuate before launching a barrage of rockets as retaliation for Israeli airstrikes. Now, there's healthcare preparations being made in Israel for the broader ground war. The Sami Ofer fortified underground emergency hospital in Haifa has been fully activated. This is an underground facility that can accommodate 2,000 patients and is equipped for wartime conditions. Currently, a significant upgrade is being done on its third floor to make it give it further capabilities for war. The Israeli Defense Forces have issued warnings to Gaza residents, urging them to evacuate to avoid collateral damage during strikes against Hamas. They dropped leaflets that specifically said, quote, "To the residents of Beit Lahia, the actions of the terrorist organization Hamas pushed the Israeli Defense Forces to act against the terrorist organization in areas where you live. For your safety, you must evacuate your homes immediately. The IDF is not interested in harming you or your family members. Anyone who is near Hamas terrorists or terrorist facilities will put their lives in danger," end quote. In the West Bank, the Lion's Den militia has called for public marches and armed confrontation with Israeli forces. Now, the Lion's Den also called for confrontations on the 12th, while Hamas separately urged its West Bank supporters, such as the Lion's Den, to march on Jerusalem on October 13th. So there's a discrepancy in days there, meaning that the mobilization calls and coordination efforts between Palestinian militias is disjointed right now. The conflict is somewhat more stable on Israel's northern border with Lebanon. However, Lebanese Hezbollah fired anti-tank missiles at Israeli positions. They also attempted to infiltrate Israel through the border. In response, Israeli Defense Forces have targeted Lebanese Hezbollah sites with airstrikes. Additionally, rockets have been fired into Israel from Syria by an unidentified militant group, eliciting a forceful Israeli response with airstrikes. Recent strikes on Aleppo and Damascus airports showed Israel's intention to deter any kind of militant group coming from any country, whether it's Syria, Lebanon, etc. The Iranian government issued the following statement, quote, "If Israel does not stop its attacks on civilians in Gaza, the region will face new situations. Israel cannot impose a complete siege on Gaza, bomb civilians, and commit war crimes without a response," end quote. I'm not sure what, quote, "new situations" mean, but that's kind of a vague and somewhat weak response and threat from the Iranians. Iran's proxies have outlined the circumstances under which they joined the war against Israel. Notably, several Iranian-backed Iraqi militias threatened to target U.S. interests if America intervenes in the conflict. The head of the Iranian-backed Badr organization, Had al-Amari, specifically warned of consequences if the U.S. supported Israel. This followed the U.S. announcement of military support for Israel. Iran itself has warned Israel against any strikes on Iranian territory, and an official statement suggests retaliation if Israel attacked positions in Syria, Lebanon, or Yemen. But we just saw that the Israelis have attacked positions in Syria and Lebanon. There are underlying tensions from the Iranians that indicate their reasoning for wanting to distance or to address what's going on with Israel, other than just the standard difference in opinion on religious, cultural, etc. arenas. They indicate that the Israeli and Saudi Arabian defense pact that they were nearing a signature for, and their security cooperation agreement had potential to be a significant threat to Iran. And so they wanted to somewhat separate that situation. In a related development, though, the U.S. Defense Secretary emphasized unconditional U.S. security support for Israel, trusting that Israel will, quote, do the right thing, end quote. Meanwhile, Egypt has taken a firm stance by refusing to open its Gaza border for refugees, which is further complicating the humanitarian situation on ground. But in the past, Egypt has not opened this corridor to refugees when flare-ups have happened before. So this is not necessarily new, but it is somewhat striking given that this is a much more forceful kinetic event between Hamas and Israel. So we'll see how that plays out in the near future. And that's the update for what's going on today with regard to Israel and Hamas.